Hey everybody, it's the Doom Dog, and it's time to take a look at yet another Halo game. This time, we'll be looking at Halo 3, the first entry in the series on Microsoft's next-gen console, the Xbox 360. Before we begin, I want to apologize for the quality of the audio of the gameplay footage. Due to circumstances beyond my control, it's been butchered. It's not up to my own standards, and I can't do anything about it. Sorry about that. As usual, I am taking a look at the single-player portion of the game. That is where my interest in this series lies. I am looking strictly at the game as well. If there's something in the story that either is unexplained or poorly explained, that was explained in something like a book or series of comics, that does not come into play here. If you bring up how some expanded lore explains problems that this game's story may have, I will tell you that that explanation should have been in the game. With that in mind, let's begin. Before work began on this game, Bungie understood that they were moving to a newer and more powerful console and were making a bigger game overall. They greatly expanded their staff to make sure that the frustrations of the Halo 2 development cycle were avoided. They even moved to a newer and larger office, and it worked. For the most part, it was much smoother sailing than the previous entry in the series. Halo 2 single-handedly sold a lot of Xboxes. It had long lines to pick it up at midnight on launch day. It received widespread news coverage, and a lot of people stayed at home from school to play the game when it was new. After widespread bitching about the ending, people were highly anticipating how Bungie would continue the story. To compound this further, the game would be the first in the series released on Microsoft's new hardware, the Xbox 360. To say that excitement for this game was through the roof is a vast understatement. Did it live up to the hype? Well, according to sales and fan praise, it seems to have, but let's examine it anyway. As the game begins, you hear narration from Cortana. She says that she got to pick which Spartan she got to work with, and she chose Chief. If you know the plot of Reach, this may be a little confusing. Having said that, they did write Reach after this, so it seems a little unfair to complain that a game written later makes a line of dialogue in this game make a little less sense. Anyway, she watched Chief over time as he became the soldier that they needed him to be, and she says that Chief had a factor that the others didn't seem to have, an element of luck. This strikes me as a little odd because I have no clue how one quantifies luck into something that an AI can see, but whatever. You see something dropping down to the Earth's atmosphere. A second object separates from it and crashes down to the planet's surface. The next thing you see is Johnson standing over a crater with Master Chief in it. There is a group of soldiers around him as well, and one of them notes that he fell at least 2 kilometers. His armor locked up, and the soldier notes that the gel layer may have taken most of the damage. It still seems like that fall should have killed him. I have some questions about this opening. What was that falling through the sky? And what was it that separated itself and crashed to Earth? The game seems to indicate that it's Truth's ship and that Chief jumped out of it. He was in a sealed compartment at the end of Halo 2, though. If that is the case, how did Chief jump out of the ship? Does this mean that the game takes place immediately after the previous game? If that is the case, why is Johnson back on Earth? When we last saw him, he was stranded on a Halo ring in deep space with no way of getting back home that we know of. The ship that he arrived on was taken over by the flood, and it crashed down into High Charity. How the hell did Johnson get back to Earth? It would make a lot more sense if there was weeks or months separating Halo 2 and 3, but that would have us arrive back at square one. Why did she fall from the sky? None of this adds up, and it leaves me feeling very confused as I start this game. Anyway, Johnson orders a VTOL to come pick up the Chief, and the Chief immediately wakes up. He notes that Cortana stayed behind, and he spots something mostly invisible moving behind all the soldiers. He runs straight up to it and sticks his gun in its face. It turns out to be the Arbiter, and Johnson says to take it easy because he's an ally. Chief accepts this and lets him go. I have some more questions. At the end of the previous game, Arbiter and Johnson did team up on the ring to stop Tartarus, but it was an uneasy and shaky alliance at best. Both of them were stranded on the ring, and a Covenant civil war was going on. Now he is back on Earth, and he's just part of the crew? How and when did that happen? What does this mean for the Covenant civil war? Are humans allied with the elites now? If so, how and when did that happen? How did we go from uneasy temporary allies to buddy-buddy? This game never answers any of these questions. See what I mean about the beginning of this game being very confusing?
Come on, I'll lead you out.
Anyway, Arbiter says that the Brutes will be here soon, so you had better be on the move. A short distance down the trail, Johnson and the Marines split with the Arbiter and the Chief. Shortly after that, you get the first of many visions of Cortana, and she asks if you would sacrifice her to complete your mission. The soldiers around you note that your vitality signs dropped to 0 when this happened. This is weird, and what happened during this sequence is never really explained. Shortly after that, Banshees show up and attack the Pelicans, causing them to crash. Johnson radios in and says that his Pelican went down about a half a clip from your position. When you chase after him, you discover that Brutes have captured him. Rescue him. When you do, more drop ships arrive. Fight through them to make a spot for the Pelican to land and pick you up. It takes you back to base. When you arrive back at the base, you find Miranda Keyes there to greet you. Truth and his forces have landed in the ruins of New Bombasa and started digging. He is looking for the Ark, which he can use to fire all the rings. Lord Hood contacts you and he says that Truth's ship is protected by anti-aircraft cannons. He wants you to take out the AA guns and punch a hole in his defenses so the ships can swoop in and engage Truth and his forces. Right in the middle of explaining this, the power goes out briefly. It turns back on and Truth appears on all the monitors around you. He believes that killing humanity is the will of the gods, and he says that he is the instrument of their will. You will notice that Truth has a different voice actor, and he's not as good as the 1 and 2. Miranda figures that the Covenant are about to attack the base, so prepare for battle. The Covenant enter the base through the hangar. Go there and fend them off. Johnson informs you that the Brutes broke into the Ops Center. Head there and take them out. You run into a swarm of drones, take them on. Johnson is preparing a bomb in the Ops Center to go off after the base has been evacuated. Brutes have taken the barracks, and they took some Marines hostage. Go rescue them and escort them to the landing pad. The Arbiter says to move the survivors to the hangar where there's an elevator, and you overhear Johnson telling Keyes that he lost the Ops Center. He fell back to the hangar. The Brutes are using jetpacks there. After clearing them out, Johnson lands a Pelican in the hangar, and he picks up and evacuates the Marines that you saved. He notes that the Brutes disarmed the bomb, and Keyes orders you to get back to the Ops Center and rearm it. She will find you a new escape route. When you reach the Ops Center, you find Brutes are speaking to Truth over the monitors. Truth demands to know what the humans are going to do to try to stop him. One of the Brutes orders the drones to find out what the humans know about the Ark. Go introduce yourself to them. take out the brutes and rearm the bomb. Johnson says that the service elevator in the hangar. This is your exit, so head back there and take it. The bomb explodes just as you get on the elevator and take it down. How does this not destroy the elevator or kill you? I do not know. Game fades to black and it cuts back into you down below in a parking garage with smoke and fire everywhere. There are wounded soldiers that cannot walk and some that can. There are some intact warthogs. You cannot reach the commander because you are too far underground. Grab a warthog and make your way out of the underground area. You intercept a message about how the space elevator was destroyed. No, I don't know what the space elevator is or what importance it holds. And no, the game does not tell you either. Parts of it are littered all across the battlefield, though. Later on, you intercept a call for help from a convoy under attack by the Covenant. Go help them. The Covenant sets up a barrier that stops vehicles from passing through. People can walk through, though, and I don't know how it differentiates between the metal in your armor and the metal in your vehicle. Destroy the barrier and move on. When you get out of the tunnel, a Covenant cruiser flies overhead. It seems that Truth has found something. Keyes assumes that it is the Ark. Johnson says to keep pushing toward the town of Voy, where Pelicans will resupply you. The Pelicans are headed your way with heavy weapons, but they need a place to land. They're at a landing spot, and they will drop off more vehicles. Grab a warthog and make your way further down the highway. You come across another barrier. Take it down, and Keyes shows up with a Pelican. The Covenant have uncovered an artifact they believe to be the Ark. Lord Hood says that they need to take back the city. You need to take out the anti-aircraft cannons to allow his ships to fly in and engage Truth and his fleet with an air assault. Lord Hood radios in from the Forward Unto Dawn and asks about the artifact that the Covenant uncovered. Atmospheric disturbances are surrounding it. After you take out some of the anti-aircraft cannons, the Scarab shows up. Take it down and make your way down to the final cannon. The Arbiter joins you after you take out the Scarab. A single Covenant ship enters the area near Earth. Lord Hood says to ignore it for now and continue with the plan because you may not get another shot at Truth. Hood is headed your way. Destroy the last anti-aircraft cannon. Construction workers pick up pistols and join the fight against the Covenant. God bless the Second Amendment, right? Destroy the final gun. Lord Hood's fleet arrives and engages the Covenant forces. The unearthed artifact shoots a beam into the sky. Oh hey, a sky beam. We haven't seen that in every sci-fi, action, and superhero film in the last decade. I kid. A portal opens up above Truth's ship and it flies straight through the portal. The fleet goes with it. That one Covenant ship arrives and crashes down to Earth. Arbiter asks if it's more brutes, and Chief says it is worse. It turns out that the ship was carrying the Flood. Fucking damn it! Things were going so well, too. Fuck the Flood. They quickly overrun the city, and Keyes says that you need to contain this immediately. Make your way to the crashed ship and blow it up. After a while, the Shadow of Intent shows up and you hear the shipmaster. He drops off a bunch of elite warriors to help fight the Flood. There you have your answer. The elites are no longer part of the Covenant. The civil war between the Covenant and the elites is over, and the elites are now allied with the humans. How did this happen? When did this happen? The Civil War was just starting in Halo 2. How much time has passed between games exactly? This is a much easier pill to swallow if there's months for all these things to happen between games. If that is the case, it would be nice to at least be given a little information about what happened here so we aren't left questioning. This is just one more aspect of the game that leaves me questioning. Anyway, the elites are looking for Cortana. They believe she is on the ship. I guess we need to explore the ship before we blow it up. When you enter the ship, the Gravemind speaks to you, telling you to not be afraid. You find what seems to be Cortana hidden in the ship. A message starts playing when you find her, and an elite flies overhead. 343 Guilty Spark flies down and introduces himself. He shoots the container she is in with some sort of beam. Chief stops him because he does not trust 343 Guilty Spark. Spark says that since you destroyed his ring, he has one purpose: to help you. He takes the device and flies away. A tractor beam on the elite ship pulls you up to it. It turns out that this is not Cortana. It is a message that she left you. She warned you about the Gravemind is on his way to Earth. It's a little too late for that. It does not know about the portal to the Ark that Truth just used. Cortana says that the Ark has a way of destroying the Flood without firing the ring. Lord Hood says that he is staying behind to try to fight off the Flood. Time to visit the Ark. Shipmaster glassed half a continent to stop the Flood, and he says that it was only because of the Council of the Arbiter that he did not do so to the entire planet. Did I miss something? When did that happen? Anyway, you fly through the portal on the Forward Unto Dawn with a fleet of elite ships, and you come out on the other side of the Ark. The elites engage the brute ships. Chief and Johnson take a group of Marines down to the surface where the Covenant have already set up shop. At least there was time between them flying there and you arriving this time, unlike when you arrived at the ring in Halo 2. Keyes is fighting the brutes above, and she cannot hold out forever. Find a place for her to come down to the surface. After clearing out an area and taking out the anti-aircraft guns, Keyes brings the ship down to the surface. The Forward Unto Dawn drops off a bunch of tanks. Pick one and have fun. The Covenant found something on the other side of the wall. Use a tank to punch your way through their forces to find out what it is. After fighting your way through the Covenant forces, you find yourself in a doorway leading into the structure. 343 Guilty Spark opens it and lets you in. Leave your tank and enter the structure. Activate the switch to form a bridge for vehicles below to cross to the other side of the wall. As soon as you step out of the other side of the wall, a Scarab steps right over you. Fight your way through the Covenant forces and take it out. After killing it, fight your way up the building and join the Arbiter. After making your way down into the structure, you come across the Ark's cartographer. Chief activates it, and it shows a map of the galaxy. Then it shows the full Ark. 343 Guilty Spark says that he has extensive knowledge of his ring, but his knowledge of the Ark is limited. That way, in case he got captured by the Flood, he would not be able to give them information on the Ark. Truth is near the Ark's supraliminal communications array. He triggered a barrier that protects him from you. You need to disable it to get to him. A group of phantoms show up and interrupt you. Head back inside the structure, fight your way down to the lower floor, and through a bunch of brutes, a pelican shows up and picks you up. A ton of sentinels fly out for some purpose or another. Johnson is about to engage them when 343 Guilty Spark says that they mean him no harm. Keyes elects to leave them alone. She flies you down to the beach. There are 3 towers containing 3 generators. You need to deactivate all 3 and the barrier will go down. This will allow you to get to Truth. Johnson drops you off at the first generator, and he flies to the 3rd. The elites will take on the 2nd one. Step up to the Pelican and onto the beach. Prepare for a fight. Take out the anti-aircraft cannons on the beach. This allows Keyes to come down to the surface. Shipmaster takes the elites and bombards the shield to distract Truth and the Covenant from what you are doing. Keyes drops off a Warthog. Take it and make your way down to the first tower. When you reach the tower controls, shut it down. The Arbiter shuts down his tower, but Johnson gets pinned down. Make your way to the 3rd tower to help him. Your allies drop off a Hornet for you to use, hop in it, and fly to the 3rd tower. Shut it down, and the barrier falls. The Shipmaster flies his ship right over the Prophet when High Charity comes out through the portal and crashes down into the surface. The Flood immediately start pouring out of it. Make your way back out of the tower to the beach. The Shipmaster took significant damage and he flies out of range of the battle to safety. 343 Guilty Spark mentions that the rings are out of range of the Ark, and this makes no fucking sense at all. I will get back to this in a moment though. Don't you worry. Keyes says to stop Truth before dealing with the Flood. Hop into a tank and fight your way toward the Citadel. On a cliff overlooking it, you are handed another Hornet. Hop in that and deal with the Covenant forces outside the Citadel. When they are dealt with, meet the Arbiter on the Citadel and enter it. When you enter, Truth is giving a sermon. Keyes asks how close Chief is, and Chief says that he is not close enough. Truth has Johnson because he needs a human to light the ring for him. Keyes crashes a ship into the tower and attacks the Covenant with a shotgun and a pistol. Johnson orders her to kill him and then herself. So Truth cannot fire the ring. She gets killed by a brute. This death is stupid and pointless. Chief and Arbiter are quite literally in the same building as Truth. The ignition process can be stopped after it has been started. We saw that at the end of the 2nd game. They have time to reach Truth. Even then, all Johnson has to do is distract Truth for a little while he waits for Chief and Arbiter to show up. Also, if she was going to do this to try to kill Truth, why did she go alone? She has a bunch of Marines that she could have taken with her to make sure that she gets the job done. She died for literally no reason. Fuck, this is so stupid. Anyway, a brute forces Johnson to insert the index into the control panel and start the ignition sequence. The Flood show up and offer to help you reach Truth. They fight alongside you on your way to him. When you finally reach him, Johnson is holding Miranda. The Flood is infecting the Prophet, and the personalities of Truth and the Gravemind fight for control of the body. Arbiter kills Truth, completing his revenge, and the Gravemind takes over. He betrayed you.
Oh, there's a big surprise! That's an incredible... I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise!
Johnson takes Miranda's ship and escapes with it. Chief and Arbiter fight the Flood on their way back out of the Citadel. Chief sees a vision of Cortana that leads around the corner to a control panel. He activates the control panel, and a blind covering the window in front of him lifts up, revealing another Halo ring, lifting up from the Ark. It is a replacement for the one that you took out in the first game. Chief says that he's going to light it, and 343 Guilty Spark says that a tactical pulse should take out the local infestation. Okay, so one of the purposes of the Ark is to build a replacement ring should one be destroyed, right? How does it make sense then that the rings would be out of range of the Ark? They would have to be in range for the Ark to sense that one of them rings has been destroyed and needs to be replaced. Should the firing of the ring be stopped, it goes into standby mode and can be fired from the Ark. The only way that is possible is if the rings are in range of the fucking Ark. Seriously, what the hell? The idea that the rings are out of range of the Ark makes no sense. Even worse is the fact that Chief wants to fire the fucking ring? Seriously, what the fuck, game? Ever since the first time I played this game, this pissed me the hell off. Everything you have done in these 3 games up to this point has been to stop the rings from firing. And now that we are at the end game, you decide that firing the rings is the only way? Fuck you, game. That's fucking stupid. Remember, the ring does not kill Flood. What was it that the first game said about it again?
Halo doesn't kill Flood. It kills their food. Humans, Covenant, whatever. We're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life.
Yeah, it does not kill Flood. Furthermore, firing one ring makes the other rings fire as well.
Technically, this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years. But once the others follow suit, this galaxy will be quite devoid of life. Or at least any life with sufficient biomass to sustain the Flood.
See? This is all established in the first fucking game. All you are going to do by firing the ring is wipe the galaxy clean of life. This plot twist feels like Bungie wrote themselves into a fucking corner and had no clue how to write themselves back out of it. But I know they didn't do that because, as discussed earlier, Cortana said that there was an alternative way to kill the Flood on the Ark, one that does not involve firing the fucking rings. This game never fucking tells you what it is. It's like Bungie just forgot that they wrote that in or something. All you had to do was fall through on that and this story wouldn't be so bad overall. But this makes no fucking sense. What the hell? Anyway, Chief flies to High Charity to retrieve Cortana, and it is infested with Flood. The Gravemind talks to you repeatedly throughout this, and you hear him arguing with Cortana as well. He works out that you came to retrieve her. At one point, you hear her muttering random things near you, and you come across a terminal that triggers a vision of her. Gravemind mentions that he knows that she is hiding something from him, and he demands to know what it is. You approach the pedestal with a small force field around it, and you break it. Cortana is relieved to see you again. She seems beat to hell since you left her here, and she says that she is not all there. She still has the activation index from the first game, and Chief puts her back in his helmet. Time to escape. You know me. The Gravemind sees all of this, and he now knows the secret that she hid from him. Cortana says to blow the reactor and destroy High Charity. Activate the controls to reveal the pillars and destroy them. Hightail it out of there. Cortana notices a friendly contact. Someone came in after you. It's the Arbiter, and she is surprised that 2 of you are friendly now. Hop in the Pelican and escape. The Gravemind attempts to grab your ship, but you escape and fly down to the surface of the new ring. The Arbiter elects to go down to the surface with you. Johnson is coming too. Chief plans to head for the portal after firing the ring. This should not do any good because it should set off all the other rings as was established in the first game. God, this is stupid. The Flood drop down to the surface and start attacking you. The Gravemind lets you know that he's still alive. He survived being blown up. Somehow. Johnson covers you with a Spartan laser. He tells 343 Guilty Spark to open the door, and Spark will not do it until you clear the Flood out from around it. Do so, and he lets you in. Johnson joins you in the Arbiter as you enter the structure. It seems that the Gravemind is attempting to rebuild itself on the ring. You enter the control room, and Chief gives Cortana to Johnson, and he heads to the control panel. 343 Guilty Spark says that the ring will not be ready to fire for a few more days. Johnson says that you do not have that kind of time. Spark says that firing the ring will destroy both the Ark and the ring, and he shoots Johnson. Fuck you, Spark. Rot in hell for that. But why was Johnson doing this instead of Chief? It seems to me that Johnson would have survived if Chief had approached the console instead. Anyway, Spark shoots at you as well. Shoot him for a bit until Johnson shoots him with the Spartan laser. Chief approaches Johnson and gets the laser off him. Johnson says that he cannot leave and he dies. Whoever decided that Johnson needed to die in this game.
Your mom's a hoe.
Anyway, Chief takes Cortana and inserts her into the console. She apologizes for Johnson and fires the ring, which, again, is fucking stupid. The Arbiter apologizes as well, and you make your escape. The two of them fight their way back out of the structure. The frigate Johnson landed on is still there. Get to it and make your escape to the Forward Unto Dawn. Hop in Johnson's Warthog and Arbiter mans the gun. This is another Warthog run, much like the one in the first game. Chief jumps the Warthog into the ship. Both of them survive the crash. Chief inserts Cortana into the ship and it starts taking off just as you see the ring firing behind you. Cortana is worried that you will not make it to safety. Chief assures her that you will. It fades out and it flashes back to Earth. A memorial has been constructed with the pictures of those fallen in battle. Lord Hood is giving a speech to pay tribute to everyone that died. I guess he just defeated the Flood? Did literally all of them just get up and leave when the Gravemind went through the portal and arrived at the Ark? What happened with him fighting the Flood? It seems highly unlikely that they all just up and left the planet. So I guess we just have to assume that Lord Hood killed all the Flood? Which seems just as unlikely based on everything we know about them up to this point. What happened to Cortana's alternative to firing the rings? Did I mention that firing the rings is stupid? I don't think I've driven that point home quite enough yet, because it very much is. Anyway, the Forward Unto Dawn crashes down into the Earth. The Arbiter steps off of it, unharmed. Chief, however, does not. Lord Hood is standing behind him, and he says that he will never forgive the elites for what they did to humanity in the war. He says that Arbiter has his thanks for standing by Chief to the end, though. He says that it's hard to believe that he is gone, and the Arbiter says, were it so easy, indicating that he thinks he might not be dead. Shipmaster wants to see his home planet again. He wants to know that it is safe. The Arbiter says that they have made it so, and he orders them to fly home. They fly out into space, and the camera zooms into 117 scratched into the memorial. What? You don't have pictures of the Chief? The credits roll after this. After the credits, Cortana calls to the Chief. He is alive and he's floating in Zero G. She does not know what happened. Halo fired and shook itself apart. It destroyed the Ark. The portal collapsed just as you were flying through it. Half of the ship made it through with the Arbiter on it. The other half is floating somewhere in deep space with you on it. Cortana says that you did it, you stopped the Covenant and the Flood, and it's over. She sets off a distress beacon, but it could be a while before anyone finds you. Chief enters the stasis pod and tells her to wake him when she needs him. That's it. That's the ending of the trilogy. For the life of me, I do not know why this game gets praised for its story that it does. It has numerous major storytelling problems that start literally from the opening cutscene of the game that people just seem to ignore. It leaves things unexplained, has plot twists that are so stupid that it amazes me that more people have not called it out for it. What happened to the high concept sci-fi writing in 1 and 2? What the fuck happened here? Why is the writing so much worse in this game than it was in the first 2 games? There has to be some explanation for it in some book or comic or movie that makes all of it make sense. But the story presented in the game is in no way, shape, or form anything close to the standards set by Halo 1 and 2. And I'm not going to lie to you, this is easily the worst of the 3 games from a story standpoint. It is not a satisfactory ending to the trilogy at fucking all. Some of the decisions that Bungie made for this story make literally no fucking sense. All they had to do was show off Cortana's alternative to dealing with the Flood and then go, oh, and it got rid of the Flood on Earth as well. And this would have been at least a somewhat decent ending, but it feels like they completely forgot that they wrote that into the story. The game also has unnecessary character deaths. Johnson's death is impactful because he's my boy, but it could have easily been avoided if Chief had approached the console instead of Johnson. It could have been that Spark shoots Johnson out of rage after Chief starts the firing sequence instead of what we got. At least it wouldn't have felt completely avoidable in that case. There is no excuse for Miranda's death, though. A level-headed character who, in the game and Halo 2, is not really known for making stupid decisions, makes a completely irrational choice, and it gets her killed. Why? Why does she do this? It feels like it was written into the game just to get a cheap emotional response out of the player. But it's completely unearned because it's such an illogical moment in the story. Furthermore, the game largely sidelines the Arbiter. He goes from main character in 2 to sidelined sidekick in this game. For a lot of the game, it feels like he's barely in it, and barely has any impact on the plot. I get that this is Chief's story, but you did my boy dirty, Bungie. You gave him one shining moment in the game, and that was him killing the Prophet of Truth. That was his one great moment. I love that he does not want to kill his fellow Covenant, though. He tries to talk them out of fighting for truth. It's a nice detail, at least. Still, he was the best part of this trilogy, and he got sidelined in this game. All in all, this is without a doubt the worst story of the 3 games. It makes basic mistakes in the Halo universe that Bungie should know better than. And it's made even more baffling by the fact that they wrote in a way out and just chose not to use it at the end of the game. Every time I play this game, it seriously pisses me off when Chief decides to fire the rain. Given everything that came before that, it comes out of nowhere and makes no fucking sense at all. This game goes back to the first game's complete lack of character development. This is a common theme in Bungie's games. They so rarely develop characters well. They are good at big sci-fi ideas, lore, and world building. They are amazing at art design, but they really need to work on developing more personality for their characters. Given how there is very little of it in 1 and 3, it's a wonder that they did so well with the Arbiter in 2. As I mentioned before, Cortana interrupts the game repeatedly throughout its runtime. She speaks to you despite being on High Charity somewhere out in deep space, and I do not know how. It makes no sense, and it is never explained. If this happened once or twice, it would be fine. It would remind you of what you're fighting for, but it doesn't. It happens over and over and over again as you play throughout this game. And it gets to the point where you just want to go, please shut up and let me play. I wish I could tell you that this is the great ending that this fascinating sci-fi story deserved, but I can't. Everyone else seems to think that it is. I have heard nothing but universal praise for Halo 3's story since the day it came out, and I have never understood why. After playing through it yet again, I still do not get it. Maybe there is a book or comic or movie that explains it in a way that makes sense, but what is presented in this game trips on its own stupidity and falls flat on its own face. It's such a shame. So, how does it look? With the jump to the high definition era, a lot of emphasis was placed on gorgeous high definition graphics. Let's get this out of the way first. This is not technically an HD game. It has higher resolutions than the games on the original Xbox for sure, but its internal resolution does not technically reach high definition. It's a 640p game instead of a 720p game. That was a point of controversy when it came out because it had jagged edges. Oh my god, the horror. Now that that is out of the way, you are bound to notice a lot more jaggies now than you did when this was new. Because it's been 13 years since the game came out, and we have significantly more powerful hardware capable of much sharper graphics. That kind of makes it a moot point that is not technically HD, I suppose. Still, I figured if I did not mention it, somebody probably would. 640p is still a significant leap in resolution over the previous generation. It goes from 720 by 480 to 1138 by 640. The resolution is not the only thing that improved with the move to HD though. The graphically more powerful consoles were capable of rendering higher resolution textures with better filtering and much better color depth and much cleaner, clearer, and crisper and more colorful picture with a much larger amount of polygons on screen at any time. And Halo 3 definitely puts this extra power to good use. The game chooses to start in a jungle, which is a great place to show off the increased color depth. Larger, more detailed textures and improved lighting with thick foliage where some of it actually interacts with you as you move by it, and light filtering through the trees. It sets off an immediate strong impression that lets you know how much more powerful the Xbox 360 is than the original Xbox. It's an impressive showpiece of what the Xbox 360 could do right off the bat. It's fairly unfortunate then that after the first level you spend about 3 levels traveling through rather bland looking industrial environments without the strong sense of wonderful art design that Halo was known for. It just looks like bland industrial military complexes and construction zones. These levels are somewhat lacking in color, which is disappointing. This entire generation had way too many games that were just like this, or even worse. Browns, grays, blacks, lots of earth tones. Very little of the vibrant colors that Halo is known for. When you reach the Ark, however, it picks up big time and it gets a lot better. The environments become a lot more fun to look at and fight through because you get more of that wonderful Halo art design. And it looks far better than it ever has before. The move to an HD console with higher resolutions, much better color depth, and greatly increased number of polygons on screen only helps show off the wonderful art of this series more than ever before. It's absolutely gorgeous. Take note of the animation. There's a lot of little environmental storytelling and animation touches that are unique to the brutes in this game that can be easily missed or overlooked if you aren't paying attention. Bungie did good work here. For example, check out the brute manhandling one of the Marines in the first level. It's a great little touch that you can interact with. Try to save him if you can. It's like cinematic storytelling moments that you can interact with. It's a nice touch. The skyboxes are once again wonderful in this game. Bungie has always been good at this as well, and seeing them in high definition only serves to make it look much better. When you play through this game, take the time to look up to the sky every now and then. The game will reward you for it with gorgeous visuals, especially when you are on the Ark and on the Ring. One more way that the game shows how much more powerful the Xbox 360 was over the original Xbox is in the sheer number of enemies it places on screen at any given time. This game pits you against a lot more enemies at any given time than 1 and 2 did, and all of them have a much greater level of detail and a lot more polygons than the previous 2 games did. It does not seem to slow down significantly either. Bungie did nice work giving you more enemies to fight and kill than ever before in this game. What about sound then? As previously stated, the audio quality of my gameplay has been completely destroyed. Don't take it as a true example of what this game has to offer, because it is most certainly not that. Once again, I am sorry about that, but with moving to a new console, you can expect it to be capable of greater depth of sound than previous consoles were capable of. This is certainly true of the Xbox 360. It pushed better soundscapes with more audio depth to them and better surround sound mixes than anything from the previous generation hardware. Halo 3 does give you better surround sound mix than the 2 previous games. That is absolutely certain. The mix has much more audio depth to it than ever before, and it pushes in-game Dolby Digital that sounds gorgeous on a good stereo. If you didn't have a great surround sound unit before this, the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 should have absolutely convinced you that you needed one. For the most part, you get improvements across the board, from the music to the dialogue to the environmental noise. Pretty much everything in this game sounds like it runs at higher bit rates than the previous generation, and it all sounds super clean, clear, and crisp as a direct result. It's a fairly impressive mix. The voice acting is good across the board for the most part. Miranda has a new voice actor, but she does a fine job stepping into the role. The returning voice cast all turn in excellent performances as well. At this point, you expect good voice acting from this series, and it delivers once again. There is a notable problem though, and that is the voice of Truth. In Halo 2, he was voiced by Michael Wincott. In Halo 3, however, he is voiced by Terrence Stamp. Switching voice actors is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is immediately noticeable from the very first time that you hear Truth's voice in this game. Stamp is not bad in this role, but there is no denying that Wincott is just plain better in Halo 2 as this character. I do not know why this was changed in Halo 3, but it does hurt the game somewhat. It would have been better to have Wincott play Truth again. Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore returned to do the score once again, and I wouldn't have it any other way. They turn in yet another impressive score that should not be a surprise to anyone that has heard the scores for 1 and 2. I do like the scores to the previous 2 games a bit better than this one though. 3 relies a little too heavily on reworking old pieces instead of completely original ones. 2 was mostly original and it was all good. The reworked pieces are all great. At times they are better than they were in 2. But I think 2 wins out overall for not relying too heavily on what was written for the first game. If I'm being honest though, there is 1 or 2 small tracks in here that I don't care for as much as well. As a whole though, this game has a wonderful score that is sure to please anyone that loved the first 2 games. I can't imagine not loving it at least. With the move to a more powerful console and an increase in audio fidelity, you would think that that would come with better sound for the guns, right? I would have thought so. I thought this was going to be the one where I finally loved how the weapons sound. I was wrong. I dwelled on this twice in my previous 2 reviews, so I will not do so here, but I expected more. I swear, the weapons at times sound weaker than their previous gen counterparts, especially the assault rifle. It sounds even weaker than it did in the previous games, and that takes away from the weapon feel for me. By extension, it takes away from the feel of combat. Overall, though, this is an improvement in terms of sound design. It sounds better than it ever has before. The weapons, sound, and 1 voice actor aren't enough to drag down the package as a whole. It's an amazing sounding game. Play through it with a good stereo. If you have not, this game will reward you for it. For the most part, Bungie did top-notch work with their sound design for this game. How does it play then? In a word, it plays like Halo. Halo 3 isn't so much of an innovation on how the first 2 games played as it is a refinement of that. And that's just fine. This game was meant to be the end of the story and the final game in Master Chief's story. It just needed to be the most perfect version of what Halo 1 and 2 were. Did it achieve this? Yes and no. Let me explain. When the game is at its absolute best, it is everything a Halo game should be. It tosses out the repetitive level design of Halo 1 and the linear corridor shooting of Halo 2, and it focuses on the wide open sandbox level design of the first game with the added variety of Halo 2. When the game is at its best, it successfully combines the best of the first game with the best of the second game into one refined Halo experience. It is not always at its best though. If you have played this, you probably know what I am about to say to bring up as an example right here. That's right, the Cortana level. In this level, you enter High Charity once again to search for the AI. Just like in Halo 2, that means that it is focused on smaller corridor shooting that Halo is not particularly good with. To further compound this, the only enemy that you fight in this level are the Flood. If you thought it was annoying fighting the brutes in these environments in 2, it is so much worse when it's the Flood in 3. With that in mind, it's time to rant about the Flood yet again. Fuck these guys. They are not fun to fight. They never have been fun to fight. They never will be fun to fight. There is more variety to them in this game. But that means that there are now enemies that slowly walk towards you, tank damage before they hit you, and others that stay at a distance and scurry away when you approach them. They pelt you with constant fire, so no, the added variety for them does not make them more fun to fight. Once again, I say that I get why they are here. I get that they're important to this trilogy. I get that they need to be in this game, but holy fuck, they are just as miserable to fight in this game as they were in 1 and 2. I hate fighting them. They ruin every single level that they are in. And I am so glad that I do not have to deal with them and rant about these fucking things again in this retrospective. This is the last time you will hear this dog bitch about the Flood, and I'm sure you're happy about it because you're probably as sick of hearing me bitch as I am of bitching. Fuck the Flood. The end result is that 2.5 of the 9 levels are not fun at all to fight. The final level gets half a point in the fun factor because it repeats the Warthog run from Halo 1. It was awesome in Halo 1, it's still awesome here. And you aren't in corridors anymore, and you have more room to maneuver your vehicle around in this game. So it might even be better than it was in the first game. It's fun either way. Vehicles always controlled well in this series. Here are a couple of quick minor gripes. You can no longer dual wield the Needler. Why? Was it too overpowered in the previous game or something? Why was this changed? It makes the Needler less fun after it was so awesome in Halo 2. Furthermore, the assault rifle holds 32 bullets instead of 60. Why the change? It has a smaller aiming circle as well, which makes it a little harder to use against small Flood forms. So what did they add? Well, you get new weapons to play with. First off, there is the Spiker. This is the most common that you will run into. It feels underpowered, and I am not the only one with this complaint. I have seen others say things like it's a pea shooter. I do agree. It's okay if you dual wield it, but then it feels like it should be more powerful than it actually is. You get a Mauler, and I wish this would pop up more often in the game with more ammo. It shows up rarely enough that it is hard to get a true feel for what it can do, especially on a single playthrough. It seems to work like a handheld shotgun that you can dual wield, which sounds pretty cool on paper. It lacks the powerful impact shotgun though. Halo has always had great shotguns. It's an alright weapon, but it's nothing too remarkable. There's a new human weapon called the Spartan Laser, and this thing is fucking awesome. I wish it popped up more in the campaign because it is so much fun to use. It reminds me of the double barrel shotgun in Doom 2 in that it packs one hell of a punch and takes a while between each shot. This makes it difficult to master. Ammo for it is severely limited as well, so choose your targets wisely. Save it for more powerful foes like the vehicles, because it will tear them to shreds. The best addition, however, is the Gravity Hammer. Remember that badass looking hammer that Tartarus was carrying around in Halo 2? Yeah, that's in this game and you get to use it. It's the single most satisfying weapon in this game to use beyond all shadow of a doubt. It's not the most practical thing in the world because it is a melee weapon, but it packs one hell of a wallop when you swing it. It's so satisfying to kill enemies with. You get some new vehicles too. First off, there is the Brute Chopper. This works a lot like a motorcycle or trike. It is fun to use because its twin cannons pack a significantly more powerful punch than the Ghost, but it does not control as well. It jackknives a little too easily. It is hard to get it to turn properly when it does. It also blows up fairly quickly. It can be fun to try and master though. The four-wheeler. If you've ever been on one in real life, you know how fun these can be, so you would expect it to be very fast and highly maneuverable in the game. It is both, and an ally can ride on the back and fire at enemies. It's easy to roll this thing though. Be careful with it or you will find yourself dead because you hit something, went flying, and got killed. Still, it's small, quick, and nimble. It's fun to drive. The Brute Prowler. This is an interesting one, with the front part being skis driven by some wheels on the back. It has a gunner seat and mounted turret. And I have to be honest though, I did not use this one that much. It's probably my least favorite of the new Covenant vehicles. Speaking of which, did you notice that this game uses Ghosts and Banshees less than the previous two? You can get a couple of variants of the Warthog. The first one is the Troop Carrier. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can carry multiple Marines with it. It is not built for offense. It is built for transport. So you probably will not be using it that much. The Marines can fire at enemies, of course, but it does not have any kind of mounted gun on it. The other kind is the Gauss Warthog, and this one is a hell of a lot more fun. It's just like a normal Warthog, but it has a Gauss rifle mounted where you would usually have a machine gun. This packs a much more powerful punch with each shot than the machine gun, and it deals out more damage more quickly as a result. It's awesome. This game really only gives it to you one time for a fight against a Scarab though. It's so much better than a normal Warthog because it's significantly more powerful. The last vehicle and the best addition to this game is the Hornet. I fucking love this thing. It's basically an airplane with machine guns and homing missiles on it to take down enemies. You get to use it for one of the most memorable moments in the game, a fight against two Scarabs at once. It's not quite as maneuverable as an airplane would be, but it is a hell of a lot of fun to fly and fight enemies with. I love this thing. Beyond this, the game does add in new usable items. There are items like grav lifts that make you jump higher, and bubble shields that protect you from incoming fire. I find myself almost never using these because they require you to stay in a small area in order to use them most of the time, and I'm much more mobile than that. They don't do me much good, so enemies tend to get a lot more use out of them than I do. They are fine for what they are. I'm sure others enjoy them, but I could live with or without them personally. The Halo sandbox is expanded nicely, and the 6.5 of the 9 levels are a lot of fun to play though. Despite my major problems with the story, I do enjoy playing through it, because when it is at its best, it takes the best of Halo 1 and 2 and refines it to a glorious shine. It's not perfect. I really do not like Floodgate or Cortana at all, but I do enjoy the rest of the game. The earlier levels are a bit bland in terms of art design, but the firefights are still fun and engaging. What about the replay value then? Well, there's quite a bit of it in Halo 3. Remember the skulls from Halo 2? Well, they return to this game, and you do not need to play them on the highest difficulty to find them all. You can collect them and turn them on and off, and you want to change and tweak the difficulty to your liking. That, combined with the more fair legendary mode than 2 had, adds a ton of replay value to this game. To add to that, though, are the terminals. See if you can find them all. If you do, and you read them in order, they tell a story of the librarian and the didact, 2 characters that would be explored more heavily in later entries in the series. These are a great addition to the series that would be added to later games and the anniversary editions of 1 and 2 to add more depth to the series lore. They are a wonderful addition that gave you plenty of reason to replay through the campaign more than once. This is not the focus of this review, but Halo 3 had a fully featured multiplayer mode that was one of the most popular multiplayer games on the Xbox 360 back in the day as well. It even came with a map editing mode called Forge that would let you tailor existing maps to your liking or make your own creations. I love when console games include map makers like this. It does not happen anywhere near often enough, but a creative community can greatly extend the life of a game. It should be done more often for this very reason. All in all, Halo 3 is not the perfect ending to the Halo trilogy deserved. It baffles me that so many people insist that it is. From a gameplay standpoint, most of the campaign is fun to play through, but the story has some seriously inexcusable twists and turns, and I am surprised that more fans have not called it out for this. Fans are just okay with firing the ring in 3? It is fun though. It is worth playing. There's enough good content to suffer through the bad parts and get an engaging gameplay experience. Unlike Halo 1 and 2, there are not numerous ports of Halo 3. There are really only 2 to speak of, and that might even be stretching it a bit. It's been 13 years since its release. As of the time of writing this, it still does not have a PC port. It is coming eventually, but it's not here yet. It'll probably be the best version of the game when it does come out. Anyway, the first of the 2 ports is the Xbox One backwards compatible port. This is given a higher resolution and smoother frame rate with even frame pacing if you are playing it on the base Xbox One or the Xbox One S. The real treat, however, is on the Xbox One X. It has enhanced X support, and that means a greatly increased resolution that is just shy of full 4K. This results in smoothed out visuals. The frame rate is a rock solid 30 at all times with even frame pacing as well. It has added HDR support for better looking colors that really pop, and it has added detail into the picture as well. They really went the extra mile for the X enhanced version of this game. This is not the best way to play Halo 3 though. As of right now, the best way to play is on the Master Chief Collection. It gives you the 4K experience, the added detail, and the HDR support, but what makes it better overall is the frame rate. The Master Chief Collection remaster of Halo 3 runs at a solid 60 FPS. And this does matter, man. It feels so much more smooth than it does on the original console, or even the Xbox One and Xbox One X with the original disc. If you have never played it before, I would encourage you to do so through the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox One X on a huge 4K screen. It's a real treat when you do. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been quite an undertaking reviewing the original Halo trilogy. But we're far from done. We have plenty of Halo to go. Please give this video a like and drop a comment below. What do you think of Halo 3? Do you think it's the perfect game that many claim it to be? Or do you agree that it is fun, but it has problems that you just can't ignore. Subscribe and ring the bell to see more from this channel. Share this video. That would help me out a lot as well. Until next time, Doomdog out.